I live like 2 minutes.
Everyone needs to quiet down.
So many people buy from it because it's so hard to do this.
And it emails me when you submit it, so that I know that you're registered.
This is so cool.
Also, I don't know how to pull it properly.
Just try. Well, like, I should.
Lily?
Okay. Basically,
No, I don't
first
want you
finger,
to
second
dress
finger,
up
third
to
finger,
the
fourth
Does the
finger.
blue one work?
What?
Hey, does the blue one work?
Oh, we haven't decided that yet. I don't think we should talk about that.
So just right
For what?
It's a debate thing, ceremony,
Banquet?
banquet.
I mean, last year you dressed up some. Was
Like,
nice.
I saw your
Don't come
picture.
in your sweatshirt.
Nice one. Carolyn, we should buy the same dress and wear
Okay,
it.
yes!
We just wear it.
Okay. No,
I'm warning you.
What
Maybe
you
you
want
should
to
wear
get
it.
it.
You can
You can if you want to. Most people probably won't. But it's entirely your choice.
Wait, what?
So if your uniform makes you happy,
I'll watch it.
For what? For what?
just don't wear sweats.
Wait, for what?
I never wear sweats.
I don't own sweats.
Same.
Wait, for what?
The banquet.
What banquet?
The banquet.
What day is that?
Hey, everyone, we will do
Happy
the
birthday,
banquet
everyone! Just say it's a big cake.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just told us my birthday. I'm
Wait,
jealous.
what?
Go.
December 22nd, my birthday.
Guys, Carol, Pearl,
Oh.
Claire, go.
Alright, time starts now. I shall affirm the resolution that the U.S. federal government should take significant action to help the victims of the Nepalese earthquake. Okay, so as a brief roadmap, I'm going to first go over definitions and our criterion, and then I'll start going over our plan and basically the status quo, basically what's happening right now in this current event, and then I'll be going over our independent contention. So, the definitions for this debate, the USFG is obviously the U.S. federal government. Significant action, we're going to be explaining what the significant action is in our plan. The Nepalese earthquake, so Saturday there's an earthquake in the Nepalese region area that killed about 3,600 lives in the mountains. And so this happened on Saturday. And our criterion for this debate, we set it as utilitarianism, which is the greatest good for the greatest amount of people. So as for our plan, our actor is the U.S. federal government. The time frame is as soon as possible. Funding is normal wages and means. And our plan text is to send in more workers, humanitarian aid, and supplies by the U.S. Agency for International Development. So we're basically sending tents, food, dry goods, blankets, and and a lot of different medicines because people are actually getting sick since they're sleeping outside and afraid to actually sleep inside their house. And so currently the U.S. has sent about $10 million to Nepal and 70 workers and humanitarian personnel with about 45 square tons of supplies, and this is according to Time magazine. So the money is not enough. So we're sending workers because this money, we shouldn't just send money that could just be basically disappear and be lost because due to corruption, as we know, governments sometimes keep this foreign aid money for themselves. And so we want to make sure that we're making a direct impact by sending workers and such to directly save lives instead of just giving them money. So that is our plan. Does the negation team have any questions about our framework? Okay. So now on to our contention. So our first contention is that we need to provide supplies and basic supplies for these people, and we need to save lives. So so as we know, there is a huge demand for supply in the Nepalese area because according to an interview, there's an area called Gorkha, in which they need 50,000 tents, but they only have 3,000 tents. And about 364 people are dead in this little area alone. So what this shows is that right now they have a lack of supplies, and people are actually sleeping outside, as I stated before, because they're too afraid to sleep in their houses because of these earthquakes and potential aftershocks. So right now there are also rainstorms going on right now. So we need to provide these supplies for these people, or else they might die due to these rainstorms and all of these natural, basically due to the cold, due to bugs and other things basically. So if we have all these people die, it would directly hurt Nepal and other government because like if all these people die, there's really no one to work. There's not that many people to work, and thus would hurt the economy of Nepal. And so we need to save these people for the sake of saving them as well as helping Nepal themselves. So right now, about 4,000 people are dead in Nepal, and we actually haven't sent rescue teams to all rescue teams haven't reached all the areas yet because there's some areas that are completely isolated and really hard to reach because of the mountainous terrain, and so there could be way more people dead, and so we need to send these people in order to go into these areas, and we can't just send money because of the fact that it's not directly helping Nepal. Also, the Nepal government isn't actually doing anything to help their own people. So they haven't taken any actions at all, and they haven't taken any actions at all to save their own people. So of course, the U.S. needs to take action to help save these lives. Because 70% of houses in the overall areas are actually destroyed, which is causing people to basically lose their homes, basically lose a lot of the things that they had owned, and thus might leave a couple people in poverty. So there's also 95% of people currently living outside. So we need to send these supplies and make a direct impact instead of just indirectly sending money because they need supplies and they need help and they will die if we don't send them. Thank you.
Yeah. Was your plan just to send in more workers back to the
Really? When do you know? Never? Oh, sometimes after Charles and Spanish, it was like, and then I'm like, oops.
Do you know? Oh, there's trouble one more?
Right, guys, yeah.
Wait.
Yeah.
If there are things in our case that are case, like their case, should we say our case first?
You should probably always say
Mention
your
it and
case
then go
first.
to your case.
You can if you want to. If you have other parts to your case and want to apply part of your case to their case, you can combine. It depends on how much of your case is directly against theirs. But make sure you are linking it to their point of view.
Is everyone ready? Right. Time starts now. So as a member of the negation team, I strongly negate the resolution that the U.S. federal government should take significant action to help the victims of the Nepalese earthquake. So I will begin by going over our case and then moving on. Going over our case, refuting their case, and then Can I say our case?
Your case and their case.
Refute their case, and then that's it. Okay. I had a lot of stuff in my head. Okay, sorry. Okay, so our first contention is that other actors are already helping out. Other actors are already helping out the situation in Nepal. So many organizations that are including NGOs, are already helping out, sending help to the areas that were affected by the Nepalese earthquake. Therefore, our help would be redundant. An example would be Save the Children, which has had their branches in Nepal since 1976, and this is according to Time magazine. And they have emergency specialists already in Nepal as we speak. And then also the Red Cross, which is an international group, and also the UN. So the UN will be sending $451 million in refugee help, and if we also they estimate that
1.4 million people will get food assistance. 750,000 750,000 people in hard-to-reach areas. 2.1 million children and 525,000 women will have temporary living areas with this money. That being said, their health, or that being said, the American assistance would only hinder the would only bring more trouble to the Nepalese government, because like our opponents did say that if we sent them extra goods that they did not need, the government could take these goods and maybe use them in a way that would not benefit the people who are more in need of these supplies. Okay. Also, according to CNN, which was an article published a day ago, Nepal only has one international airport that can take all of these supposedly transported goods that the affirmation team said in their plan. Therefore, I quote, "The airport is currently totally congested, and many goods still have not been offloaded." And this was said by Jagan Chapgain, who's the Asia Pacific Director of the IFRC, International Federation of Red Cross and Red Crescent Societies. And if we were to send help through goods, this would be, like I said before, this would only hinder and be more of a nuisance and would not be as effective because of this is still first. Because there's still many. Okay, there are already stuff there, and many planes are still flying or are still circulating the area, waiting for other planes to leave so that they can drop them off. This is extremely inefficient, and it would make more sense just to send them money so we can fund them. We can help them in an easier way. This also applies to the affirmation team's criterion of utilitarianism, the greatest amount of good for the greatest amount of people, because we are adhering to that. Moving on to our second contention, if the U.S. decided to bring supplies to Nepal, then it could bring political problems. So they might begin acting as a unilateral actor instead of a multilateral actor, and in this way, if they act as because they're so much more developed than this already poorly developed nation, then they could take advantage of this and try taking over all of the help. Yeah, all of the help and support systems that are currently going on in Nepal right now. And also, when other countries will see that America is sending these supplies, then other countries may not be as willing to help out this country. Because an example would be China, because China is currently sending in their own people to help out impoverished, or the people who are being the people who have victims of this earthquake. Okay. And since That was our second.
That was the second one.
That was our second contention.
And that was your second
For
contention?
these, can you stand up?
That was your second contention?
Our second contention was that it would bring political. That being said, I have no time. Okay, so the
How long was that?
That was 6:58, excluding the time where I kind of like moved my hips around. And like,
Okay.
I stopped time when we asked questions.
Alright.
No, I didn't get time to.
Is everyone ready?
No.
Yes.
Okay.
Well, she's
As a member of the affirmative team, I strongly affirm today's resolution that the USFG should take significant action to help the victims of the Nepalese earthquake. As a brief roadmap, I'll first be addressing the negation team's case and then move on to once again affirm her case. So the negation team's first contention is that other actors are already helping out. And so the fact is that this help that they're already providing, yes, there are people who are already taking action in Nepal, but the fact is that it's just not enough. My partners mentioned a lot of facts in her speech that showed that there are a lot of problems right now in Nepal that the U.S. could actually solve by taking action to help solve that. Now, the negation team has mentioned throughout their first contention that the UN is going to be sending in $451 million in refugee help, and they're saying that we should send in money instead of goods. Now, the problem with sending money instead of goods is the problem of corruption. There is no guarantee that this $451 million will ever actually reach the Nepalese people. Will actually help the victims of this earthquake. Now, the negation team never specified exactly how this UN plan works. Are they sending in money to the Nepalese government? Now, the problem with this would be, as my partner stated, is that the Nepalese government actually isn't helping the people at all. It's been the foreign countries that are actually, like China and India, that are actually helping the people. And so that's another reason why the U.S. should send in goods, should send in workers, should send aid, instead of just sending in money and just drawn back into the shadows and letting the UN do this. Alright, so in addition, they also mentioned that they mentioned this idea that if we send more goods, the government could take them and use them in a way that doesn't benefit the people. However, what we're sending is humanitarian workers, aid, supplies that can only benefit people. The negation team hasn't clarified how exactly the government could take these goods and use them in a way that's detrimental to the people, but doesn't actually help the victims of this earthquake. So they also mentioned the Asian Pacific director of the IFRC, how sending goods is a nuisance because we're waiting for the planes to leave. However, these goods are not going to be a nuisance when they're providing people shelter, when they're saving people's lives, making sure that they have shelter from the rainstorms that could possibly lead to sickness and then even more deaths than have just been caused by the earthquake itself. They also mentioned that somehow they link into utilitarianism because, and I quote, we link in. However, they haven't clarified how exactly they link into utilitarianism. So moving on to address their second contention, which is that of political problems. Alright, so there are a few problems with this contention. So frankly,
Oh my god, there's so
which you dropped, I'll remind you. Alright, so frankly, there are a few problems with this contention. The first being that this would not cause their impact seems to be that other countries will not be willing to help, and they mentioned China. However, I don't quite see what they're trying to say here because China's already helping Nepal, so they would just want to draw back into the shadows now because that doesn't make sense at all because China has already pledged a lot of effort, and they're not just going to draw back just because the U.S. is providing them help, providing their aids, reinforcing their aid to Nepal. Now, other countries would actually positively view America for contributing to the relief efforts for this earthquake, because they would see that the USFG is willing to help other countries. So the negation team mentioned the disparity. Yeah, I mentioned that. Would mention the disparity between our developed nation and Nepal, which is a poor nation. Now they'll see that the USFG is willing to help nations like Nepal that are suffering from these natural disasters, and and this will actually help increase our soft power and allow us to work together with other countries to solve other conflicts. Alright, so moving on to address the affirmative team's case. I'll just affirm this once again, seeing as the negation team completely dropped our case. They didn't mention anything at all to refute our contention. So I'll just move on to once again reinforce the contention. And so basically our first contention is about providing basic health. Now we mentioned that there's a demand for tents, dry goods, blankets, mattresses, 80 different types of medicines. Now simply going along with what the negation team is not taking a significant action to help makes sure that the effects of this earthquake are simply perpetuating, that they go on for a longer time than they need to. The USFG could help solve the problems that have been created by this earthquake. Now my partner also mentioned, and I've mentioned in my speech, that the Nepalese government isn't doing anything, which is why we're suggesting that the US federal government should do something. Because even though the negation team has mentioned that there are already other actors helping out, it's simply not enough. Once again, it's not enough. I'll take your question later if I have time. So, USFG could help. Okay, so my partner mentioned one example where in a region called Gorkha, there's a need for 50,000 tents, but they only have 3,000. That's a discrepancy of 47,000 tents that are needed right now. So these tents could shelter a lot of people and make sure that they're not exposed to natural forces such as rainstorms that might cause them to get sick and cause an even higher death toll, which would be detrimental to the economy because we'd have a smaller workforce. And that would mean that Nepal's economy would only grow smaller, and they would become only even poorer. So for these reasons, I strongly affirm today's resolution that the USFG should take significant action to help the victims of the Nepalese earthquake. Thank you.
You said grow smaller.
They say whatever.
Yeah, you know what? Next time we're gonna go their side to our side.
And then they say that the police said something.
Here's the thing.
Oh yeah, right.
As a member of the negation team, I strongly dictate the resolution that the USFG should take significant action to help the victims of the Nepalese earthquake. First, I'll be going over the affirmative team case before going over the negation team's case. So the affirmative team's case, one and only contention was that we need to provide some basic supplies to save lives. And they mentioned how they need more tents and thousands of tents and supplies that the United States needs to send in so that these people can get the supplies they need to live. But as we have stated in our first contention, there is only one airport for international aid. So if we keep trying to send these supplies, the only airport will need to spend more time trying to deal with all the stuff that we keep on sending in, rather than trying to be more efficient with distributing the supplies that are already being sent there by organizations such as the UN. So because of that, the affirmative team is making airports less efficient, which means that the supplies that are already in Nepal won't get to the people as efficiently. Yes.
Wait, so the supplies that are already in Nepal, are they at the airport or have they been taken out of the airport?
There are right. Right now in the airport, there. Right now in the airport, there are already things there, but they're struggling to deal with everything that's already going there because there's only one of them, and many countries and other organizations are already sending help and supplies. And they can't get to the supplies fast enough so that they can actually distribute it or to be effective.
So is the problem that they can't get to the airport?
The problem is that the things in the airport are getting.
I passed your time, so it's okay.
What?
I passed your time.
Wait, what's your question?
So is the problem that they can't travel, that people in Nepal cannot travel to the airport to get their supplies, or is the
Problem is that so many things are trying to reach that airport that the airport can't handle all these things.
Bro, you can ask a POI.
Silly question.
Yes.
Oh, are you aware? Okay, are you aware that Nepal, since Nepal is such an underdeveloped country, the transportation infrastructure is extremely poor. Therefore, it's hard to get to the airport.
This still doesn't answer my question. Can we just get to your question? Yeah,
There are too many things at the airport, it's plugged up. Go.
Anyway.
Oh, the nurse is like really good. Just see her doing those science presentations.
Because of that,
Our ocean is safer.
Our first contention was that other actors are already helping, and we mentioned that NGOs are already sending help, and the UN has, or Spain, yes.
If the UN is sending help, how are they part of the political problems that you've mentioned?
No.
Like, are they causing? Why not? Because they're.
Our political problems are because of the unilateral. What are we doing? Unilateral acting that we are doing, and since the UN is multilateral, it does not contribute to the problems that we are mentioning. I will answer your question.
Is China causing problems?
Something annoying.
So they refuted this by saying that the NGOs are not sending enough, but $410 million for the supplies, food, and shelter. That $451 million for the food, shelter, and supplies and medical aid that they need, as well as the support of the other countries also taking action, is enough for Nepal. Because as we have seen in the past, the UN has taken relief efforts and handled them well. We also mentioned that Nepal only has one airport, and they reviewed that by saying they didn't really review this at all. They said the goods will not be. Yes.
Sit down. I'm so excited. I love debating.
So they didn't clear their refutation for this was not a clear refutation.
Yes.
And they also said that sending workers is more effective than sending money. But by sending workers, since they only have the one airport and there's already tens of other countries, there's already many other countries. You're judging me.
Of course.
There's already many other countries trying to send in people and things to help. By sending more workers, we're gonna burden the airport more, and it'll continue to make it less efficient, as I have stated before. Our second contention was that with political problems and how with the affirmative team's plan, we are acting unilaterally rather than multilaterally. And they said that by having the USFG send aid and people, we are helping soft power. But since it is the United States acting alone and trying to take over by continuing to send these things in their plans, we are showing other countries that we are trying to take over more things, and since as we take over more, and because we are acting unilaterally rather than multilaterally, we are trying to take over yet another country, as we have done with other things such as military aid. And we also said that China would also be less willing to help, and they refuted that by saying that China's already helping and why they would want to not pull out what they already put in. But what we were trying to say is that China will want to not put as much effort since they're already seeing us put in more effort, and since we're already doing that, they won't want to keep supporting them, and in future natural disasters such as this one, they'll want to put less effort because they figure that the United States will just do everything. And because if they see the United States doing everything, in the future they won't want to do it as much. And for these reasons, the United States federal government should take significant action to help the victims of the Nepalese earthquake.
Hey, we were mostly quiet, like you were loud. I was like,
I was tired. I'll say it like Kevin.
please stop.
You slap. Oh
my
god, not. Oh my god.
What is
Should I do it like Is everybody ready?
Yes.
Okay. Time starts now. As the final speaker for the obligation team, I strongly negate the resolution that the U.S. federal government should take significant action to help the victims of the Nepalese earthquake. So there are a few key reasons why we have clearly won this debate today. And though I failed to properly refute their first contention in our first speech, my partner did refute their only contention in our second speech, which I will talk about right now. So they said, so their first contention was that they would provide basic supplies and bring in workers to save lives. However, as we already stated, refuted before in our second contention, sending in these people and also sending in people would make the U.S. seem like a unilateral actor because they're not a unilateral actor, as this action may be seen as overpowering, and also by sending we refuted this in our first contention, in which we stated that sending in goods is not efficient because like our opponent said,
if we don't send in help, there will be a rising death. The death toll will rise. However, we can't really send in help for goods because one airport, like 30 billion countries sending in goods and stuff. We lost. Okay, sorry. Okay, moving on to our second voter issue. Second voter issue. So our alternative was our intention was to instead of acting as a unilateral actor by simply sending in our own goods and supplies and our own people, we could act as multilateral actors, which is what the UN is, because they are which kind of sort of because they are made up of government officials from different countries. If we and other countries collaborated to or collaboratively sent in help to Nepal, then it would be more efficient. Okay. And yeah, that's about all of it. For these reasons, I strongly negate the resolution that the federal government should take significant actions to help the victims of the Nepalese earthquake.
Very good.
What? Okay.
Alright, let's get through the last speech, please.
Before they all fly.
Story.
Time
You know
yeah,
it.
yeah, man, you know.
Don't
stuff.
know
Yeah,
it.
Shh.
Claire, go.
Okay. Time starts now. A little girl asks her mother, "Where's Daddy? Where's Daddy? Where's our home?" Her mother doesn't reply. They sit under the night sky, laying on the grass.
Don't laugh.
They sit on under the night sky, laying on the grass, staring up at the sky. It is cold. Her mother starts to sniffle and cough violently. The child says, "Mommy, what's wrong?" Her mother lays down and sobs. We need to send Nepal supplies. We need to save these lives. If only they had a tent, if only they had a blanket, if only they had medicine to help them, we could be saving their lives. They've lost their homes, they've lost family members and friends. Without sending these supplies, they would lose more. So we can't risk this. Thus, I start my voter issues speech. So, voter issues is the reasons why you, judge, should vote for the affirmative team in this debate. So, in a standard baseball game, 3 strikes and you're out. However, I'd like to stress the fact that negation has about almost 6 strikes. Thus, this is why you should vote for the affirmative team. So our first voter issue is that we have no drop points, but they do. They have dropped a refutation to our one sufficient and strong contention, and only refuted it in their second speech. So as we can see, they dropped our points and actually delayed the refutation. So second of all, we adhere to utilitarianism better. As I have stated, with the U.S. sending more supplies, there's more tents going to these people without them. There's more food, more people to save these people from the possible rubble of their homes, and to save them from possible aftershocks and such as that, and actually just providing simple food, because all these people have just lost their houses and lost basically everything they own. Wow. So thus, by implementing our plan and having us send more workers and food and supplies instead of simply money, we can guarantee that we're actually sending this help, because by sending money, it might just disappear into thin air because of these corrupt governments that aren't actually helping the people, as my partner has stated. Just go on. Okay. And so this is why we're adhering to utilitarianism. Once again, it's the greatest good for the greatest amount of people. We want to save these lives. We want to help them. We don't want to abandon them simply because other countries are already helping. We need to help ourselves as well. So, additionally, our third voter issue is that of the fact that we have no contradictions. So they clearly, the negation team has had a contradiction within their contention. They had stated that China can simply withdraw if they see the U.S. Helping Nepal, because China's already helped, so they can't necessarily withdraw all this help and undo all that they've helped. What? My partner brought that up.
Do you want to say the point of order?
Repeat.
Oh,
I don't have time.
we did not say that China
China would be like less.
China would drop out.
My partner had stated this in her speech. They had stated that China would be less obligated basically to help out, so they could simply basically stop helping. I'm pretty sure is what their point was, unless they're trying to change it now, which is probably not allowed. So we had no contradictions in our plan. They had also stated that since the UN is already helping, the US doesn't need to help. So we can see a clear contradiction between these 2 points of the fact that if the US helps, China will kind of draw out, and and we should help because the UN is already helping. You can see these conflicting morals right here for the fact that they're using the UN as an excuse for the US to not help, but at the same time, they say that if we help, then China will draw out. Isn't it kind of the same? It's kind of the same aspect here because, okay, let me explain. Give me time. Don't give me weird looks. Okay? 20 seconds?
19.
Okay, two more comparison. People will die. People don't get their supplies. Even though airports are supposedly clogged, people are getting supplies. Why is this a nuisance? People are getting supplies to save their lives. In our side, we are saving lives. We're adhering to utilitarianism, and the U.S. is helping to save lives. So for these reasons, I strongly affirm the resolution that the U.S. federal government should take significant action to help the victims of natural disasters.
I actually have comments.
Wow. Like, I was trying to explain
So
why
should wait, question before for you guys. Do you guys debate like this at tournaments?
No.
Or just practice?
just practice.
Then
So it
why
doesn't help
do
you to
not
practice
debate like you debate at tournaments in practice?
Because this is not going to help you if you like goof off and laugh and like do silly stuff. It doesn't help you.
Because I'm sincerely
tournaments.
hoping you don't debate like this at tournaments.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because then I would hardly understand how any of you guys win rounds. I'm sorry, but like, try to take practice a little more seriously. If you're not doing the way you do it at tournaments, then you aren't going to be debating as well as you can. Yes.
So can I clarify that point that you looked very, very confused about?
That did not make sense.
Okay, so what they were saying was that the UN is already helping, so the US shouldn't help. And they said that if the US helps, then China would kind of withdraw.
Exactly. That is. I failed to see how that.
No, it was a contradiction because they're kind of saying how it's bad for the US to help
You
because
don't
people
have
will
to
draw
compare.
out, but they're also saying how the US shouldn't help. It's hard to explain. I shouldn't have brought it
It
up.
doesn't make
No,
sense.
it does make sense. Like in my mind it does. It's like the gears are cranking.
It really doesn't.
No. Okay, so it's kind of it's contradicting morals because the thing is they're using the UN as an excuse for the US to not help.
Yes,
But at the same time, they're also saying if the U.S. helps, then China will draw out. It's the same kind of concept that a country will draw out only because another country is helping.
Okay.
Do you get it? So
There are two reasons why the U.S. shouldn't go in. One, because the U.S. is doing it. The other, because other countries already helping might not want to.
no, but
I
I
have
was
comments.
trying to say that.
Okay, it's fine.
Okay.
Just
Does that
say
make
it so you can
sense?
explain
First
it.
contention.
Does
It
that-
has
there you
some
go.
points. Sometimes it confuses. I thought you
Yeah,
had two contentions, but you actually just have one.
Yeah.
Slash advantage. Oh, they call advantages. Right?
Yeah, what?
Right?
What?
They call called advantages? Yeah.
Advantage to a plan, yes.
Yes, advantages, not contentions.
Sorry.
And
Take it later.
okay. And also, this is for you, like Daenerys, but define what soft power is, like the key words, just so in case you don't know. Even though I never do that, but I notice when other people don't do that. Oh yeah, don't laugh when you tell a really sad story.
Yeah, I was trying to, but you guys were laughing.
I wasn't laughing.
Okay, wait.
Oh, and then in your first voter issue.
Oh, sorry.
Oh, and Claire, in your first voter issue, you said that you have no drop points and that they didn't mention it until.
Should I mention what the points they dropped?
And try refuting them so that it shows that you're not just showing that.
Okay, I thought they would bring it up as a point of order, which is why I didn't refute.
Okay.
And plus, my card is kind of what does really their refutation already, because their refutation is literally.
Okay, so the thing is with that, you can preempt them being able to respond to it during MO or LOR by Daenerys saying that because they dropped it in their first speech, they ceded their first opportunity to be able to respond to it. Because they did not take their first opportunity, they cannot respond to it later in the round, because that's abusive, because then you only have 5 minutes to respond to everything.
Yeah.
If Neg always did that, then Ash would never be able to win. And thus they can't be allowed to refute it anytime later in the round, and it has to stand carrying it the entire round. Right? So then they cannot refute it this later, except for trying to argue. You guys could then try to argue that our points refuted it, so that's we're saying the same thing, we're still allowed to refute it. Right? Pearl, I would suggest refute it.
Okay. And then pair. Make sure you mention so because Daenerys kind of uses this against you, about the corrupt government thing. You can use it against you multiple times. So make sure you mention that and address that. And also in your LO speech or in your second speech, don't say that don't say oh, we did mention it because Elaine mentioned it in your previous speech. And also have a voter issue about a criterion. And your first and second contention first and second voter issues are very similar.
Yeah, I have a question about voter issues.
I did not understand.
We'll get to
Your
that.
drop.
And then
Yeah.
Elaine, you said that UN has taken relief efforts and handled them well. Give an example.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. And yeah, that's it.
Great. Either of you guys have feedback?
I
have feedback about
I
it.
I did really bad.
Oh, and
I
also
don't understand your last voter, your first voter issue, how you dropped a point but still refuted it later on, and also
Yeah, don't talk about my voter issues.
you want to clarify about the airport thing.
Yeah.
And other things.
Okay, so
Right. Voter issues.
So we were talking. So at the end of our third round, in which we debated much better than we did today. Sorry, I'm tired. That's
I'm
a bad
tired
excuse.
too.
Anyway,
Okay.
so he said I know that Notre Dame. He's I know Notre Dame does a lot of or Lily and Meredith are both big on voter issues, but he says he never does who was this for sale? This is Bill. He's I don't do voter issue speeches, and it's just fine. But he just says
That's kind of a lie. He does voter issue speeches.
okay, but he
Lily,
says
do you have an instant? No.
he's just kind of I just list why we won.
That's voter issue speech.
That's voter issues.
Yeah, so he's kind of a liar. He just calls it something different, but that's what it is. Listing why you won, that's a voter issue speech.
Okay, good.
Voter equals reason why we won.
I guess it's because we in the round we listed our voter issues our first voter issue.
Yeah, that's fine.
Then he was oh, I don't do that.
That's so.
I feel he does. He told us it was okay.
It just makes it easier for the judge to be able to understand. So I would not listen to him on that particular point because I think it's easier to tell a judge, this is the first reason. You can either say the first reason we won is XYZ. Just listing them like that makes it easier for someone to follow.
Okay. Voter issue speeches. Whoever does first speaker, aka everyone in this room, should be paying attention.
Oh, no, I'm not careless. Meredith was this
Yes, I'm aware, but some people still have not heard it. Okay, there are 2 ways you can do a voter speech. One is if the round gets messy, things get dropped, or you are significantly better than the other team. The other one is if you guys are really equal, or if it was a really good debate. Okay? So this one probably would have fallen into this option of things getting messy. So in that respect, you'd have your first letter issue. You want to have drop points or ideas. If they didn't drop a full point, find an idea in one of your points that they either glossed over, didn't refute properly, or entirely misunderstood. Then you go through that. You do not just say they dropped it, therefore they lose. You need to say they dropped it, thus it's guaranteed as fact in the round, and then you explain why it matters. What have you proven because they didn't refute? What impacts do you get off of that, right? Impact that out really, really far and explain how all those impacts are very terminal. You should win on that alone, right? Second one, evidence and or logic based on how the debate turned out. If they had a lot of evidence but didn't explain it, then you want to not go for the evidence part because they had more evidence, and go for the logic part. Saying they didn't explain any of it, none of this connects to their case. All they have is facts that were spewed out. Then you need to explain how you did it better. So all of these, you need to compare them. You can't just say they did it badly, therefore we win. You need to say they did it badly, here's how they did it badly. We, in comparison, did it better, and here's what we did, here's what we proved, right? So here you'd be proving either we can prove our side with all this evidence we've given you. Then you go through your case and their case, not just your case. Say, here's what we have proven with either evidence or logic. This is why it matters. Go through the entire round briefly like that, with either a focus on evidence or logic if they just had facts. Third one, criterion. So you want to go through connecting. This is where you hit all of your impacts again. Terminalize them all. That means connect them to human lives being lost, connect them to dehumanization. If you somehow manage to connect it to extinction, connect it to extinction.
Oh.
Whatever it is, right?
That AI.
That was ridiculous. So here again, you need to go through not only your case, but also their case. So say how they're either hurting people or how you have turned their points to be on your side or whatever it is. But again, you cannot ignore their case, especially if you're prime minister. Anyone, first speaker, do not zone out and ignore everything until your speech. That is a recipe to lose as soon as you hit varsity. You have to be paying attention. You have to be flowing. You have to refute what they brought up in their off-block. You sometimes do have to refute small things. Sometimes it's just big ideas. But you do have a hard job because you have to hit everything that they did in 12 minutes in 5. But you do need to address all of it. You cannot drop it. Yes?
What is option 2?
Option 2 is if the debate was really good, no one dropped anything, both teams were pretty good, that kind of thing. That is where right. That is where you start crystallizing to key issues. So that would be like say you had an economy versus environment debate. Like one.
Oh my gosh. Jerry
Later, guys. One issue would be economy, saying you're helping the economy. Second one would be environment, saying you're connecting more to the environment, that kind of thing, right? You're just crystallizing it to main issues that you have won on or main points you've won on. This is if they didn't drop your point, but you still think you won on it, then make it a voter issue. You can do that for one of these two if they didn't drop anything. Just have a point that you think you won on and explain how you won and why that matters. Yes.
What about two-level comparisons? Can I go for both options?
Yeah, you can do two-level comparisons, but the thing with that is you need to have impacts for both. So clearly state like what they'll be doing in detail. So not just like the last 20 seconds, like they'll be killing people, we'll be saving people, right?
Yeah, well that was because
yeah.
my story.
Yes.
Also, I'm not like motivation, but like if the debate comes down to economy versus environment, then you just want to win. And your economy, how do you win?
You need to argue that economy preempts environment.
Why?
How?
Because
Oh,
do you know?
You can.
Okay.
Because the economy can help the environment.
Because you need to argue that if you don't have economic stability, don't have economic
Then you
development,
can't help the
you
environment.
cannot invest in your
We said that!
And
We
there's
said that!
no humans, there's no economy. It's like,
No, like we totally okay.
The probability of extinction is like 0.00001%.
You're too
many.
So Sherry Parley J did not.
You need to be arguing that you need to value economic stability right now to get us to a better economic
That's
place.
what we said!
Guys, wow. Can we listen to Lillian Knuckle
Chill.
up a 9,000 directions?
Chill. I get that you did not like Jerry as your judge. I get that. Can we please move on now? We can move on now.
It's not helpful to criticize a particular judge. Just move on.
Oh wait, is this on a video? Oh my
Oh,
god, you saw me
yeah,
jumping
yeah.
everywhere.
You should delete that.
I love Meredith.
That is not my password.
That's because I didn't.
Because you're not debating.
I know.